Hello everyone, it's DuckFeren07 and today we are playing Amonet Zoo. This is a regular zoo list with Tarmogoyf, but with the inclusion of this new card called Invasion of Amonet. Let's see what it does. So when it enters the battlefield, each player mills 3 cards, then each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. When you flip it, you have to attack it for 4 damage. When you flip it, it enters the battlefield as a creature, which copies any creature in the graveyard, and it becomes a 4/4 black zombie. So, um, this creature, I had brews before on my channel that you could see me playing the Invasion of Ammonite paired with Archon, also paired with Fury, stuff like that. There's nothing like that in this deck. We are just trying to get value out of this card. I'm playing this card in a zoo list with Tarmogoyf because this card works so well with the Tarmogoyf. In more than a few situations, I've been able to grow Tarmogoyf very, very high and beyond, even beyond the Unholy Heat range. And the good thing is the Invasion of Ammonet is enabling the Tarmogoyf very well, and then makes it big enough to be able to flip it if necessary. So one card enables the other, and they work very well together. And once you flip it, you get a 4/4 creature that is also black, which means if you have Scion of Draco on the field, it gets a lifelink, which can be pretty cool. Okay, so in this deck we are using this in a more fair way. There are no I don't have Fury in my deck. I don't have Archon like in that previous brew, but I'm just copying like regular creatures like Scion, Kao, Goyf. But in a lot of situations, I'm able to do better than that because a lot of the decks in the format play overpowered creatures. So this card works very well against, for example, Rakdos Cam because they play Grief, they play Fury, they play Seasoned Pyromancer, they play Doughty. So really a lot of creatures that you want to copy, and you will probably in a lot of matchups like that one try to flip this aggressively. Just get that Doughty Voidwalker 4/4 Shadow guy, or get that Fury with lifelink, and or just get the Seasoned Pyromancer, draw 2 cards, whatever. There are just so many options, and so many decks in format play stuff like Solitude, Fury, Omnat, Elesh, whatever. So you will in a lot of matchups you will just be able to use this invasion. You will be able to flip this Ammonet invasion into something really powerful that will often just take the game. And if you're not doing this, it's still you get a very good value out of this card. So once you play this, opponent discards a card and you draw a card. So it creates a pretty large difference. Like when you're doing the live battle against Burn, and then you play Helix and you get 3, they lose 3. So it feels really good. It's like playing a Burn Mirror in a like card advantage game. So your opponent is discarding card and you are drawing a card, and you still get a permanent on the field that threatens to flip into something big. So I would say this card really provides a large value, and just by doing this, just by playing this, you can really enable your Goyf and really make it really huge, even after like graveyard clear, like Relic of Progenitus, whatever. So putting 7 cards into the graveyard at once can be really good, and I often can make a Goyf dodge the heat, and it's not just that, but this card is also a new card type that works well with the Goyf, of course, because we now have one more card type in our deck that can make Goyf even larger. Goyf now can be have maximal power of 9, which is just crazy, and we have a lot of card types in our deck. There is land, artifact, creature, enchantment, battle, sorcery, instant. So a lot of card types here, and definitely it's just another card type that can make Goyf bigger and better in this deck. Okay, so as I said, I think, as I said also in the previous uh, decks using this combination of cards, I think this invasion and Goyf just go very well together, and that's the reason why I'm so interested in trying these two in different brews. And this is the most classic one I've tried it in, and it's like a classic zoo list with Tarmogoyf that just using the invasion of Amonet instead of expressive iteration, because I think this card just fits the game plan very well, and it's also a card that provides value but can also be a threat in the games when you're low on threat. You can just burn this into another threat where your opponent is too high on life for your tribal flames to be relevant. So you can just burn this battle into another threat that it also comes into play as a 4/4, which is of course important to enable your stubborn denial sometimes. And yeah, so that is it. So sideboard is basically the same as same using the same sideboard as I'm using in my other zoo lists, but here we have Hearse and Nickel Spellbomb and place of the Rest in Peace, and I have two engineered explosives in place of Hiritsu Consume Soul, and there is also planes in the sideboard because the list with the 4 bubbles play one less land usually, and that's why it's easiest to cut the planes, because the 20 mana base is so tight you don't have really a spot for two basics. So that's it. Rest is the same, and we are now going to go through the league and watch some games. This is the first league I played with the deck. I ended up 3-2, but it was pretty fun, and we will now see. I lost two games, one to very good matchup and one to extremely bad matchup. So I lost the game to creativity, and Zoo is usually very favored to win those games. But opponents just had a very good hand. And the other loss was the mono black coffers, which is usually just a terrible matchup for Zoo. They have a land destruction, they have a huge number of removal that kills Kavu Goyf easily. Okay, I keep good land here. Turn one Ragavan into turn two Kavu, into turn three again a creature. So my opponent goes for a shredder here, plays bubble, do a draw discard, and they find the delirium to kill my cow. But I have more threats, and I play my bubble protected with stubborn denial. So I protect my Goyf against another unholy heat, and the opponent just goes for the fury, leaving a lot of the instants in the graveyard. So obviously they were like uh, going for another Murktide next turn, so that's why I decided to just immediately get rid of this one and play my Kavu. I should have attacked first, then play Kavu, but it's okay because opponent discarded the land. So opponent then played a second Murktide as expected and did a second spell to trigger the Shredder. No attacks from the opponent, and they had just one card in hand, and I was able to use this invasion so efficiently. And thanks to this invasion, I got pretty good. Like discarded the counter spell, left them with in a top deck mode, and I successfully made my Goyf into 6/7, which just was so relevant for this game, and I made it big enough so opponent just doesn't can't trade it, and I was able to attack, or I would be walled forever with this Murktide, and wouldn't have any good solutions until I draw another removal. Okay, so that was the game, and we can now watch the game 2. Okay, in the game 2, again, keeping a decent hand. There is Ragavan, Bolt, Goyf, Invasion. Pretty good. So I play Ragavan on 1, play my bubble, see the iteration on top of opponent's deck. Ragavan gets immediately killed. I'm with this version of deck, I'm pretty much prepared to play a longer game if needed. So I'm not really. When playing second, Murktide deck can really shut off your aggressiveness really well. I didn't want to play anything on turn 2, just playing stuff into the counterspell when they can go turn 3 Blood Moon, mostly not worth it. So I decided just to go for the basic because I have the binding in hand, and I think it's the safest option here to just play with the basic, play around Blood Moon. So I just go for the Kavu on turn 3. I still have Goyf in my hand, I have multiple removals and an invasion. So I go for my Goyf, played land tapped, hold a binding plus bolt on their turn, and now I have blue mana to cast this invasion. So opponent here goes for the explosives. And I just drew into more removal, which was fine, obviously, for the long game. And I attacked with Goyf, but my opponent decides not to crack the explosives. They just let the damage, and I just decided to go for Giganta Hand. My opponent plays the Ledger Shadow despite having the explosives on 2, so they crack. I destroy explosives plus Ledger Shredder with just 1 card, which was pretty good. Here I play the invasion. Opponent is forced to discard a card. Each player mills 3 cards, and I draw a card, which is just very good for me in this game. So opponent basically have all 4 expressive iterations into the graveyard. Sorry, 3. And they're like on 2 life and on 2 cards, and I'm like on 6. So every card I have in my deck is just very efficient, and just 1 mana, remove any creature of theirs. 2 mana, huge. 6/7 threat, dodging the heat at this point. My opponent was just so low on life that I went, of course, for the face damage here, and I didn't want to play the Tribal Flames into the Spell Pierce, so I just play safely Tarmogoyf this turn and prepare Tribal Flames for the next turn, of course. And they played 2 Murktides, which was pretty good for my opponent, but I had 2 removals for them, plus Tribal Flames to finish them, so it was a bit too late for Murktides. But anyway, I untapped with 6 cards in hand, played the Chain to the rocks, and the opponent concedes. So that was the Murktide game. We can. I will now go. I will go through the wins first. So we will now watch win number 2 in the match number 2. Okay, so keeping again decent hand. There's 2 lands, 2 bubbles, a bolt, a Goyf, invasion, pretty good. So I saw the Feindeth on the top of their deck, so I decided to crack the second Mishra bubble on their upkeep. I saw also a Fury on top of their deck, so I have information they have Feindeth and Fury at this point. I find my Sacred Foundry to immediately get rid of this Ragavan. Opponent goes for another Ragavan, and it seems like they kept 1 lander. So I just play my Goyf. I know they have a Fury plus Feindeth, but I kind of have to make them use it, and they used 3 cards to kill just one my Goyf, so that's pretty a good trade for me. And in this situation, I was able to go for the invasion. My opponent discards a card, and I draw a card, play the Goyf, so threatening to kill the invasion next turn. And the invasion is so good in this matchup. You can see my opponent's graveyard. They have Fury, they have Ragavan, they have Seasoned Pyromancer. So basically, everything is good. Everything is good in a certain situation, and they just work so well. And I just decided to play my Giganta here. Then so this way I can play all my cards and attack the invasion, and then flip it into the Spyro to draw 2 more cards, and I just attack the invasion of Amonet, and my opponent sees what is going to happen and immediately concedes the game. So that was it. I would also just bolt opponent face probably and draw 2 new cards. So that was the game against Ragdoscam. Invasion of Amonet was just so good against Ragdoscam in many games I played so far. And they have so many these creatures that are very good for copying in the graveyard. And when you flip the invasion, it always works so well. And yeah, so basically what happened here, I had 2 bubbles, I had 1 lander, didn't find a second land, and my opponent went for a turn 2 Blood Moon, which was obviously pretty good. So yeah, of course they went for the Blood Moon, and that was basically game over. So I had the bolt for the Ragavan, but it didn't matter because I didn't even have any lands, and certainly not basic lands. And I played my Ragavan. Ragavan died, so that was the game. We can safely go to the match 3 now. That I considered that match in next turn. So um, playing second, much in much better situation for me. So I go for the Mishra's Bubble second their turn. See the Undying Malice on top. Uh, I have found a Territorial Kavu on top, so I just play the Kavu. Hoping they can kill it. But I also have a Goyf in my hand in case they do kill it. A Goyf will be significantly larger. So they go for the Terminate, of course. Rakdos is one of the matchups that don't have much trouble dealing with our territorial Kavus because they play Terminate plus a Fatal Push, which both of these cards can just really efficiently deal with it. So I had multiple options here. I wanted to play Invasion on the next turn as a kind of a surprise and then try to flip it immediately. But opponent plays the Grief on their turn. I wasn't able to use the Stubborn Denial, and I had the Kill spell plus Territorial Chaos, so I decided just to tap out, play that, and not hold the Stubborn Denial. My opponent had Fury, but Fury just wasn't killing anything at this point because my Kawu is a 5-5 and Goyf is a 6-7. So they trade with Kawu, and I just play my Giganta, pass the turn, attack with Bolt. They go for the Spyro, exile from the graveyard. I kill one of the tokens, so I get the 5 damage through. So I'm leaving now my opponent into the Ragavan Dash zone, or the Lightning Bolt top deck, or Tribal Flames, whatever. And I got the Flames from the top to immediately finish the game without prolonging. So that was it. Okay, that was a last game against Ragdascam. So win number 3 was against Morde streamer. I don't know, was he playing on stream or not? Probably not. But yeah, okay, so I got a decent hand here. He was playing the Enigmatic Incarnation, and this deck, Zoo is a deck that works very well against decks playing uh, high mana value non-creature spells, mostly because of the Stubborn Denials. Stubborn Denials work very well. I also have Leyline Bindings to take care of opponents' Leyline Bindings, which is their main way of dealing with my big creatures. So they go for Abundant Growth. They go for Abundant Growth. They go target my Foundry with the Seas. I have the Stubborn Denial, but decide not to use it because I had the land fetch in my hand to go for the Savai Triumph. I attack with Ragavan and get the Fable on top, so I decided just to cast the Fable. Fable was just very good here. And I draw 2 new cards with Fable, draw into more burn. Wanted to cast wanted to cast the Tribal Flames here, but accidentally clicked on Bolt. So I did Bolt to face instead, but yeah, okay. Okay, so I go for the binding here, get 5 damage through, and finish things with my Tribal Flame. So that was the game. That was the game 1. Okay, in the game 2, I boarded in some Tira Sunders and Natural States. I forgot to show my sideboard in the previous matchup, but okay, let's see now. I just put out 2 bindings and 2 bolt for the natural states, Tear Sunders. That was it. Okay, so I went again for turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 Territorial Cavu, but Sanctifier and Vec stopped me pretty well here. Didn't have my Goyf or the Leyland Binding to deal with it, so my opponent was able to stay back and try to find something good. But the invasions of Amulet were very good in this situation, actually. So I go for the fetch end of turn. They were able to remove my Kavu, but I really was just very interested in playing this invasions, both of these invasions of Amulet, and hoping to find like tribal flames to just enable them. So opponent goes for Enigmatic Incarnation back to hand. They play Atraxa, so I definitely don't want to let them resolve that. And now I found another Goyf, which was pretty good here. So I go for the double Goyf and hold the Stubborn Denial. My opponent only has 2 cards in hand, so they show one of those end of turn, exile one of my Goyfs, and go try to resolve the Enigmatic Incarnation on their turn. But I have the Stubborn Denial, and that's it. I play my invasion, and the opponent, I think, discarded either Heliod or the third enigmatic, but now at this point had 3 enigmatics in their graveyard. So that was a very pretty good situation for me, and I got Scion on the field to get Kavu Trample, which means I'm immediately trampling over their creatures to flip these invasions, and this means I can copy like a Spirited Companion to draw a card, or the Heliod, and so I get more creatures, which is definitely a problem for my opponent to deal with, and opponent decides to concede. That was the game. Okay, we'll now go through the defeats. This was a match against Creativity, which is usually a good matchup for Zoo. This version is not playing the Valnacatl, so it's a bit less aggressive than the usual version playing Nishoba and Necatl, and that version can get damage through a bit faster and end the game sooner, which means that it will have a better matchup against creativity, but I think this version using the invasion of Amulet has probably better uh, better scam matchup because this card is just, in my experience so far, works very well there. Opponent goes for as unsubstantiate and play the third red land, and at this point I definitely realized my opponent is playing creativity, but I didn't have any interaction. I didn't have didn't draw into any removal through my top 12 cards, didn't draw into stubborn denial, so this was a pretty bad situation for me. They went for the attacks here and resolved their Archon. Still, I needed Leyline Binding to continue playing, put my or some Bolt or whatever. I didn't get it. I cast my Invasion just to see my top card, and it was the Leyline Binding set. I was like really close to finding the Binding in combat, exiling the Archon, and putting my opponent to 4 life, which would leave me in the game. And that's it. Okay, so that was the loss. Sorry, that was the loss in game one against creativity. So we can now watch the game two. Game two, I had pretty good hand, pretty aggressive, but just wasn't able to draw into the stubborn denial or the leyline binding, which were like both of these spells would probably win me this game. My opponent plays a tap land, which means my Ragavan is connecting. I played my Zagotrium and used the treasure to cast the Scion. Opponent goes for the Bitter Reunion, putting the Archon into the graveyard, and I went for the 6 damage here. I had another Scion plus Tribal Flame's face, leaving my opponent on 6 life. But my opponent has had the Persist plus Haste with Bitter Union, which was probably the only thing they could have here to be able to win this game. And that was the game. Just I wasn't able to fight the turn 3 Persist, and I wasn't able to find the Binding or Stubborn Denial, which were like the 2 cards I needed in this situation. So that was it. Sideboarding these matchups always pretty easy, so I just take in the put Flusterstorms in. Okay, so let's see last game. Last game was I was playing against a mono black coffers control, and I think that is a pretty hard matchup for any zoo list, not just this one, especially when you don't have a very good hand. And I had like a decent hand here, but my didn't have lands, which is definitely a problem in this matchup because they can destroy lands. So you definitely have to have that land flow. Also, I was playing second here, so my opponent was in a very good situation, just destroying my stuff. On the curve and going for the Field of Ruin. I got rid of the blue source, so I wasn't even close to casting the Scion here, and I decided to concede. That was a very quick loss in game one. Let's see game two. I had to mulligan to 6, keeping pretty good hand with a lot of threats. So Kavu, Scion, and 2 Goyfs. I was planning on playing Scion on turn 2 because they play Fatal Push, but I went away from for a second, FK for a few minutes, and I came back to immediately just cast the KO automatically. So that was not ideal play, but it didn't really matter because my opponent would still have like everything they needed to completely dominate this match. This relic of Progenitus was pretty hard for my two Goyfs in hand, which meant that definitely won't get much value out of them. So I find another basic here, which is the uh, worst option for this moment. I get the Tarmogoyf into play, attack with Scion, but my opponent has the removal for both. So I play my Wooded Foothills, and attempting to hold this Stubborn Denial. Opponent goes March for 1, and I try to fetch, but they have the Shadow Adapt, so playing so much land disruption really is hard when playing Zoo, and I got my Goyf at this point and have two blue spells without blue land, and the Lightning Bolt, which is kind of useless here, and the Goyf is too small to do any serious damage. And they go for they also find the Invoke to continue drawing, so that was basically it. So I just didn't have any chance after all of that, and that's it. Okay, so I think the invasion of Amonet was really good in the grinding matchups, especially against Rakdos, and not just in this league, but in leagues I played with other decks using the invasion of Amonet. And this card just works so well against them, and really can you can really easily flip it. It's just a 4 toughness, so even the Scion flip it in one attack, and it's just a card that enables Goyf very good, and you will often just thanks to just playing this invasion, getting also value out of it. In the meantime, you will get your Goyf large enough for your opponent not being able to deal with it, either using the Unholy Heat or whatever. So that is it. I really like the synergy between these two cards, and I really now have a strong reason to play a version of the Zoo using Goyf, and because these two cards just work so well so far, and I'm really happy for this version, and looking forward to playing it more. And that's it. So hope you like the video. Hope you like the gameplay. Um, if you want to help the channel, click like, click subscribe, comment in the video, and that's it for today. Goodbye.